Today's episode is gonna be a good one. We are gonna give you all kinds of permission to outsource. I'm here with longtime Focus member Bill Adair. So, can you talk about that a little bit? How does it make you better at your job when you have outsourced these other drudgery tasks? That is the most red of red flags.
Right, exactly.
Hey, what's up? This is Kristen Carter, and you've tuned in to the I Have ADHD podcast. I am medicated, caffeinated, regulated, and ready to roll. Today's episode is gonna be a good one. We are gonna give you all kinds of permission to outsource. That's what we're doing today. We're writing a permission slip to you, my dear listener, to outsource the boring, annoying, mundane, and like simple but difficult tasks in your life. And I think you're going to love every second of this episode. Of course, I need to remind you to like, subscribe, comment down below. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, I would just so love it if you hit that rating button. Give us a little 5-star rate. Give me a little shot of dopamine. Just like inject it into my arms. I need it. I love it. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome. This channel is very new. It is very, very, very new. And we are just trying to grow it. So share this with your friends. Hit that subscribe button. Do all the things that the YouTubes do. That would be so helpful. That would be so wonderful. I'm glad you're here. Come in and get cozy. This is a space where we chat about living with ADHD. And sometimes we have experts in the room to talk about the most recent research. And sometimes we have just straight up ADHDers, just regular, schmegular ADHDers here to discuss what life is like living with ADHD. And that's what we're doing today. I'm here with longtime Focus member Bill Adair. And I really want to read his bio for you because it's fascinating. He is such a fun person. Like, yes, he's a regular schmegular ADHDer, but you got to listen to this bio. So Bill is creative and executive director of Art Philly, a nonprofit that supports and promotes Philadelphia-based artists and arts organizations. Art Philly is currently organizing What Now, a 5-week citywide arts festival for the 250th birthday of the country in 2026. Bill has a BA in history from Penn and an MA in urban cultural planning from UCLA, which when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, you're a nerd.
Yeah, total nerd.
I didn't realize.
100%.
I had no idea. How did you get through Penn and UCLA with ADHD?
With a lot of energy, pain,
Yes.
stress,
Blood, sweat, and tears.
having no idea that I had ADHD.
Wow.
And and also an army of help
Yes.
from other people.
I love it. Well, welcome to the show. Thank you so much
Thanks.
for being
I'm excited
here.
to be here. I'm so honored.
So glad to have you. We did get to meet last year at our in-person event, VIP Day, and that was super fun.
I walked to VIP Day.
I know. That's so fun. Just great to have you. You're a Philly native. Have you always lived here?
No, because when I went to grad school in UCLA, I lived out there in Los Angeles and lived out there for about 6 or 7 years afterwards.
Neat.
So totally different kind of city, but Philly's my heart. So
yes, same.
Yeah.
It lives inside of me.
Yeah, go Birds.
Go Birds, baby. 7-2 right now. Can you even believe it?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Knock on wood, knock on wood. Okay. So tell me about your ADHD journey. When did you get diagnosed with ADHD? Because you said you went to Penn, which is an Ivy League school, prior to ADHD diagnosis.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I always knew that things were really hard for me.
Okay.
Always. Like since I was a little kid, I felt like other people were always more organized and, they could figure out what books to take home at the end of the day. And they had like neat piles of paper and I had like, messy piles of paper everywhere in my desk, the messiest desk in class, blah, blah, blah. I would bring home every book that I had from my
Just
desk.
in case.
Every day my mom had to sew me a bigger bag than everyone else because I couldn't ever remember which stuff to take home.
Oh.
So I dragged it all back and forth. So I always knew that stuff was harder for me.
Mhm.
But, I liked school, even though there were some things that were just like really complicated for me to figure out how to do. But there were other things that actually were like easier for me to do, like out of the box stuff.
Mhm.
Like sometimes like the creative projects or whatever. And I went to school in the 70s where, they promoted creative projects.
Ugh.
So I got support
Yeah.
for that side of me, which I was very lucky to have
Mm.
happen, even though I also always felt, like a little lazy, a little irresponsible, a little unreliable, and that I grew up in a household, first generation immigrants, and, like fun and creativity, like they didn't get you far in life when you were trying to collect the potatoes in order to not starve, right? At the end of the day. So being responsible and reliable was what it took,
Yes.
right? So it was complicated at home that way. I felt like, I kind of grew up feeling like I was lazy and irresponsible and unreliable. And I still fight with that, those inner voices right now. But anyway, I had enough things going for me in the 1970s in school as a little kid
Yeah.
that I always got support from teachers, which made a huge difference. But then, yeah, I mean, going to school, it was like crazy to go to a super high competitive school, a highly competitive school, because, it was it was like a rush to see how much you could get done every week.
Mm.
Like that we'd get ridiculously complicated and hard and just giant assignments. And that was really when I could, to a certain extent, kind of fake my way through high school and middle school, but you can't fake your way through an Ivy League school.
Imagine that would be
Yeah.
impossible.
So my first year, I really I woke. It was very eye opening, and my grades reflected it.
Yes.
And I was like, wait, I'm a good student. What happened?
Yeah.
And I had to teach myself. At the time, there was just very little support for anyone that was like, at all neurodivergent,
Sure.
neuroatypical. And, it was just like, all right, you figure it out. So I did. I had to figure it out myself fast, how to read, like 5 books a week
Dang.
or pretend I did.
Right. Enough to write the paper and get a decent grade on it.
Exactly. Yeah. I learned to speed up the process of getting things done.
Yes.
Because I had no choice, because I wanted to succeed there.
Yeah.
First generation college goer, I was not going to fail at this. So
What was
it
that like
like
in your family to be the first generation college goer attending an Ivy League? They must have been
complicated,
beyond proud.
beyond proud, and also a little worried
Mm.
that that I somehow was going to get too big for my britches, put on notions, as as we say, and
Is that such a European thing? I don't mean to like make
think
it a thing.
yeah.
But it is that like a very, I feel like we inherited that kind of perspective from our European ancestors. And I'm just wondering if you agree with that or not.
Yes, it's a double-edged sword. Because yes, my parents wanted us to succeed, but they did not want us to look down on them, of course.
Sure.
And they didn't want us to get proud, right? And I think that is like a Northern European, certainly like, my grandparents are from Ireland. You don't expect too much from life
Yeah.
because it could disappoint you.
And that played out in their history for sure.
Oh, yeah, for good reason.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I felt a little bit of class betrayal, honestly,
Wow.
when I went to this fancy school
Yeah.
with a lot of wealthy people. And my father was a landscape gardener. So I identified more with the people who were like gardening and cleaning the hallways than I did with most of my fellow students.
Yes.
But it was sheer determination, Kristen, that like got me through that. And in the end, it was an amazing experience. And once again, like there was stuff that was super hard, but other things that were maybe came a little bit easier, which was the creative stuff. So, I was editor of the magazine and, worked in like, theater. And it was, so there were opportunities for somebody like me that I found
That's amazing.
fairly quickly. But let me tell you, it was not easy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
At what point were you diagnosed with ADHD?
Yeah, so not until I was 55.
Stop it.
Yeah. So not so long ago. I mean, I know I look considerably younger than
You
55, but
actually do.
I'm actually considerably older than 55.
Stop
But
it.
I did, and it was, after like how many years of therapy, Kristen, have I been through? And no therapist, no teacher, no one ever suggested that it was, I think, as it was like if you were traditionally successful,
Right.
people just assumed that you couldn't
Very
possibly.
hard to get a diagnosis when
Yeah.
someone knows what you've accomplished.
Yeah. I mean, I know that sounds a little weird to say, but it was true. Like, and even after the diagnosis, people were like, that can't be true, Bill. That's just, there's been a lot of kind of, pushback on my trying to accept and be
Oh,
open
this
and
is
out
so
about
funny.
someone with ADHD. Cause it's like, yeah, but look at all that you've accomplished. It's like, yeah. And there's a reason I'm freaking exhausted.
I always
I
say,
feel like the walking wounded.
yes, at what cost?
At what cost? Exactly. Right.
Like
And
you've
in
accomplished
retrospect,
it, but
Bill,
like,
did you need to go to an Ivy League school, Bill? Or could you have actually gone somewhere that would have made your life a lot less stressful?
right.
And I was anxious and blah, blah, blah.
Oh
Anyway,
gosh,
I
my
had,
heart.
yeah, my heart too for that kid. Yeah.
Mm.
I felt like I needed to do those things.
Mhm.
But yeah.
So was it a therapist or
It was a
was it like
therapist. She was the best
online?
therapist. I mean, she was just
Ah,
fantastic.
God bless.
Yes, and we talked all the time about overwhelm, as we called it. She was this great Jewish therapist that I called Dr. Ruth. She was
It's
amazing. We talked about
amazing.
overwhelm every week, and after about a year, she was like, "Bill, it sounds like you have the symptoms of ADHD." And I was like, "What is that? What do you mean?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't, I didn't even know what that, I knew that like people called me hyperactive when I was a kid. That's
Sure.
what they called you then, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't even really know what it was. And she talked me through it. And I saw her for another couple of years, and it was totally life-changing. So like
Oh,
to actually feel like I had an explanation for why things part of why, I've been anxious my whole life
mhm.
and stressed, and and why just things always seemed harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt like I had a little bit of a victim mentality
Mm.
because I was like, wow, I see other people do these things and it doesn't make them seem exhausted at the end of the day. Why does it seem like it's just so hard for me to even like survive the day, in this, at college or at work or whatever. And
Hmm.
so a lot of shame releasing,
Mm.
at finally having an explanation. And also a little bit of like oh, great. So now I have a disability on top of everything else.
Right. Almost like that victim mentality kind of like hooking you in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's understandable though. And to be fair, you were a victim like of your ADHD,
True.
right? Like you
True.
didn't know,
True.
you sought help.
Right.
Nobody really gave it to you. There was no explanation, and things were legitimately harder for you.
Yeah. And they didn't know.
Right.
And I didn't know. I didn't
Right.
even know what to ask for necessarily.
Right.
Other than, how do I become more organized?
Right. Give me the 3 steps
Give me
to
study skills. I just need better study skills.
Right.
I just need to be more organized. I just need to be more responsible.
Yes.
I'm not living up to my potential. That was the whole thing.
I mean, that is just like such a huge red flag for ADHD. Anybody who feels like they're not living up to their potential, get a screening for ADHD. Maybe it
100%.
maybe it's not ADHD, but like
Right.
that is the most red of red flags.
Right, exactly.
Right?
It's like, actually, I am living up to my potential.
Right. Exactly.
I'm trying to exceed it. Give me a break.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you were diagnosed. Did you decide to go on medication?
I decided to go on an anti-anxiety medication, which I've
Oh.
taken ever since.
How has that
And
been for you?
it's been very helpful. Yeah. So I don't take a
Interesting.
stimulant, but I take an anti-anxiety, and I feel like it makes getting through the day, it makes the like tougher projects seem a little easier.
Sure.
I'm less irritable, I'm less overwhelmed. And part of that part of the lessening of the overwhelm is the medication.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Definitely recommend it.
That's fantastic. So, what has your kind of journey been like since being diagnosed, medicated, having an understanding? Like, what changes do you feel like you've been able to embody since that explosion of like understanding about yourself?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess I feel like I should also say it wasn't quite an explosion of understanding. It's been
Oh,
gradual.
okay.
Um, I mean, there was part of me that was like, as I said, hugely relieved and also like, great, now I have another, or I have a disability. On top of my anxiety, I also like get to claim another disability or whatever.
Right. Right.
But it actually has taken me a while to like fully accept that this is
Mm.
true about me. I think in a lot of ways I've had, and maybe it's old fashioned values or, just like that I've needed to shed, like, just about sort of mental illness. I know
Sure.
ADHD is not a mental illness, but anxiety, I consider my anxiety to be a mental illness
Sure.
that I've worked on and treated.
Hmm.
Um, but something that is, a neurodivergency, something is like physiologically different about me. It has been hard for me to even like, is this true? Is
Hmm.
this even a real thing? Which I know is a cliche, but I have gone through
Yeah.
that. And also, like, if it is a real thing, then is it really true for me?
Hmm.
And I think that's a process. It's not a straight trajectory. It hasn't been for me. There's still days I'm like, really? Is this really true?
Yes. Yeah.
And or is it just like, old messages like you're just lazy, irresponsible, and unreliable, Bill?
Yeah.
And it's just, it's just a flaw. It's not a physiological reality.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm a lot more in my skin about it than I used to be. And honestly, being a part of Focus, I know this isn't an advertisement for Focus, but being a part of your coaching program has really helped. Meeting
Mm.
other people that have had it and have
Yeah.
had similar experiences,
Yeah.
um, using a lot of the tools that I've learned from you and others, having my own private ADHD coach, talking about it in therapy. Those have all been part of the like, moving towards an understanding that this is my reality and it's
Mm.
okay. And I need to understand those limitations and figure out how to deal with them rather than fight them.
I so appreciate you naming the experience of grappling
Mm,
with whether or not this is true,
mm,
especially true for you. Do I just need to try harder
right.
and or is there something else going on here? I think a lot of listeners will resonate with that
Mm,
experience um, because there's a lot of messaging out there that's like ADHD isn't really real and this is just like a childhood thing or this is just for people who want an excuse. And we have that own programming inside of us. You had 55 years of programming of like, I just need to do better. I just need to try harder. I just need to like figure out what the thing is that I'm missing.
If I just collected more potatoes, everything would be fine.
Tell us about this because I'm obsessed with your thinking on this. Tell us about the potatoes.
Well, two of my grandparents were from Ireland. So, they literally grew up having to collect potatoes.
Yes.
Their families had to focus on like growing their own food every day and working their butts off,
Yeah.
or they would starve.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and I knew my grandmother. I mean, she lived to be 105. She was one hardy woman.
Wow.
And, and my father absorbed that, of course,
Of
having two
course.
immigrant parents.
Of course.
So there was, work was how you survived.
Mhm.
It wasn't like for purpose or meaning or all the like luxuries that I've gotten to like,
Yeah.
to actually experience. It was like how you actually like if you didn't collect the potatoes enough,
Yeah.
winter would come and you would all starve.
Yeah.
And that was only 2 generations away
That's wild.
from me.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like
my grandmother grew up in
embedded.
like medieval Ireland, right? I mean, it seemed that way, you know? No
Yes.
water, no,
Yeah.
anyway. And I knew her.
Yeah.
I have a funny story. I hope it's okay to tell. I don't think it's too
Yes,
outrageous.
we want to
When
hear
I
it.
was like a teenager and, wanted to sleep till noon every day, I woke up at like 8 o'clock just to like go pee. Came back, she'd made my bed. And she was like, "You are not going back to sleep. Find something to do."
love this
In her Irish brogue, which
woman.
I can't really
Right.
replicate. But yeah, no, she was amazing.
So that work, we work to avoid death.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
like embedded in
That's
your
right.
DNA.
Exactly. The potatoes.
And like we got to go collect potatoes. And when enough potatoes have been collected, then we're safe.
Then we're safe. And never enough potatoes collected.
Right.
Because you can never really be safe because next year there might be a famine or, whatever. I mean,
Yes.
yeah. So worth was very connected to productivity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true for our hustle culture generally in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was especially true for like an immigrant family.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so that's still something that you're noticing in yourself.
Totally. There's the potatoes.
Yes. It's so cute the way you talk about it. Like it's very endearing, but I can imagine that it's also distressing.
Yeah, it is because on any given day, I don't feel like I've ever collected enough potatoes metaphorically. It's just like, I feel like there's no such thing as productive enough.
Oh, that's going to resonate with everybody listening because we don't ever feel like we're done.
Totally.
We don't ever feel like we focused well enough.
Right.
We were consistent enough. We were productive enough. And so many of us measure not only our worth, but our freedom to rest. Like, am I allowed to take a break?
Yeah.
Well, let me look at my list. What did I get done?
Exactly.
What didn't I get done?
Yeah. That's
And-
right.
yeah. And it's like such a perpetual hamster wheel. Do you feel like you're able to extricate yourself from the wheel?
At times. I wish I could say that I can do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see that it's irrational, especially at this point in my life. I'm 62 and, my father was retired for 2 years by the time he was my age. And both of my siblings are retired. So it's like,
You're still collecting potatoes.
I still feel like if I don't, yes, it's irrational.
Mm. Do you work because you love it? And I feel like you're going to say yes. Do you work because you love it or because you need to collect the potatoes? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I almost feel like, there's purpose in the work that I do inherently because I believe in my work.
Yes.
But also I feel like I don't know what my purpose would be if I wasn't collecting potatoes every day. So it's, complicated.
Can I tell you my perspective? And this is as someone who's 44, so I am not there. But I kind of think retirement's a scam.
Yeah.
Do you know
Right.
what I mean? Like, I don't want to stop with the purpose part,
Right.
and not that our only purpose is found in work.
Right. Yeah.
But my kids are going to grow up and they're going to have their own kids and they're going to be living their lives. And like, I don't play golf.
No, I don't play golf.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't play pickleball. I want to have meaningful work as long as the Lord allows me to.
Yeah, same. I think I'll always work.
Yeah.
I would like to feel like I am choosing
That's
to
a
work
shift.
and not, I would like to let go of the need to prove my worth through productivity on any given day,
Yes.
as opposed to working because it gives me purpose and structure and joy.
Yeah.
And, even on
meaningful
the stressful
contribution
days.
to the world.
Right. And feeling like I'm impacting the world.
Yeah.
So
So
anyway,
good.
I'm jealous of my siblings. They have fantastic lives as retired people and they keep themselves very engaged and busy.
Yeah.
It's just a little different for me. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of that might be the hyperactive,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ADHD,
Right.
the chugga
What would
chugga
I do?
internally. Like, well,
What would I do?
you want me to read a book? Like, sit
Right.
and read?
Yeah. 10 minutes. Sure. Half an hour. Sure.
Sure.
But what about the rest of the day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel
Yeah.
that.
Good point. I hadn't actually thought about that. That it could be another benefit to ADHD. I know it's not a gift,
Right.
but it has some advantages, right?
Yeah.
And I think maybe being driven at times is
That
comes
energy,
from that.
like, who else has that?
Right.
Like, like, look around. There are so few people in the world that just have the drive, the energy, the internal engine,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
like, I don't think that shuts off at any given age. It's like,
Right. No,
yeah.
I'm just a little more exhausted at the end of the day.
Yes. So true.
Right.
Okay, I want to shift into chatting about the reason why I asked you to come on the pod
Sorry.
because no, I've loved all of this. But I reached out to you because you shared something in our Slack group. So for the listener, my Focused ADHD coaching program, we have our community hangout on Slack. It's not on social media because why would anybody with ADHD
Right.
hang out on social media? We get stuck there all day long.
Yeah.
And
It's much more personal.
it is. It does feel really connected.
Yeah.
And you shared a huge win that you made the choice to hire someone or a couple people to help you with the mundane things, the day-to-day mundane things around the house. And what it did for you was allow you to put so much more of yourself into the work that you love and give you the brain space to do that. And my mind was blown.
Well, this was your idea. I mean, I've heard you say several times, when you can, why not hire someone to be your frontal cortex?
Yeah.
To actually like help you with some of the executive functions that don't come naturally. And so, I absorbed that over time. And so, yeah, I have actually tried to. And, also, there's happiness research that demonstrates that, like, that time abundance is, much more important than like money abundance, right? So feeling like my time is freed up to do things that I find meaningful rather than, okay, work a few extra hours, get a few, or have a side gig and make more money or whatever. It's less important to me than finding time to do the things that actually matter to me.
Yes.
So hiring people to do things that are drudgery for me has been kind of a game changer.
Oh, I love it. Okay, let's start at how did you know that you needed help?
Yeah, well,
What were the signs?
I've known my whole life that I needed help with things like paying bills and paying parking tickets before they expire, right? Philly, right? We get a parking ticket a week.
Yeah.
And they're, whatever.
$70.
$70.
I know because I get them all
And
the
they're
time.
not even valid parking tickets, but you still have to like contest them and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Anyway, just all those things. Like paperwork is the enemy. And it has been my whole freaking life.
Yeah.
And so I finally hired someone to take care of, I married someone to do some of it. But that's not really
Wait, what
completely
part did
fair.
he take care of?
He takes care of a lot of the like, we have to have somebody come and like fix the heater or whatever. The water heater breaks.
I see.
He's good at stuff like that. But
This is why partnerships are so important.
Yeah, they help a lot.
Yeah.
Those arrangements help a lot. I mean, it's shared.
Yes.
It's shared household duties.
Yes.
Yeah. And we do actually share household duties, which is really nice. But I'm still responsible for my own paperwork.
Yes.
And for like picking up my own dry cleaning and going with a drug, picking up my drugs at my prescriptions and all those things and folding my own laundry.
Ugh.
And I have figured out ways, honestly, Kristen, to hire people to do those things, which I absolutely hate. And I've always sucked at it.
Yes. Yes. Everyone with ADHD knows what to do to improve their lives. You go to bed at a reasonable time and you wake up early, make a list, cross the things off the list in order, manage your time well. Yeah, we know what to do, but ADHD is not a disorder of not knowing what to do. It's a disorder of knowing exactly what to do, but not being able to get yourself to do it. That's why ADHD is so frustrating. We're smart and we want to succeed, but we can't get ourselves to do the things that we know we should do in order to make improvements. That's why I created Focused. I'm a life coach with multiple certifications, and since 2019, I've spent thousands of hours coaching adults with ADHD. Time for me to focus on you. Hello. Welcome to your coaching call. I am going to be coaching you today on relationships. I know what it takes to help an adult with ADHD go from hot mess express to grounded and thriving. Focused is my monthly coaching membership where we go deep and we get to the root cause of what holds us back with ADHD. I'll teach you how to understand your ADHD brain, regulate your emotions, and accept yourself, flaws and all. With this foundation, we build the skills to improve life with ADHD. And not only do you get skills and tools in Focused, but you're surrounded by a huge community of adults with ADHD who are also doing the work of self-development right alongside of you. Dr. Ned Hallowell says healing happens in community, and I have absolutely found this to be true. As a matter of fact, listen to what actual Focus members have to say about being in this program.
What can I say about Focused?
Full community of people who have issues similar to you, and no one judge you.
Focused has really supported me with my difficulties and asking for help. I've been encouraged and cheered on by the community.
I really like that you can do as much or as little as you want. It's not just about the volume of the content, it's about the quality.
Focus has helped me understand ADHD better.
I would recommend this to anyone.
I would thoroughly recommend Focused.
I can confidently say that this is one of the best decisions that I have made for myself.
So if you're an adult with ADHD who wants to figure out how to be motivated from the inside out and make real, lasting changes in your life, join hundreds of others from around the world in Focused. Click the link in the episode description to check it out. Okay, I misunderstood when you said I absolutely hate. I thought you were saying you hate that you hired people,
No,
but
I
you
hate
meant
those
you
things.
hate those tasks.
I hate those tasks.
Okay.
No, I don't hate having people do it for me.
Right? I
No.
think that it's so important to really make it clear that you and I both understand this is not going to be accessible to every single person listening.
100%. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people listening who do have money to spend, who feel like I shouldn't spend my money in that way.
Right.
And this is what we really want to speak to is like, yes, you should. Like,
Yeah.
you're absolutely allowed to.
Right.
And we want to write a little permission slip for that because let me start here. Did you have the thought at any point, well, I can do this stuff myself, so I should?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for like 57 years.
Okay. So for 5.5 decades.
Yeah. I mean, probably for 60 years, I felt that way. I mean, it's
Yeah.
only been relatively recently that I have kind of embraced this idea. And, I very much thank you for writing me the permission slip. And if I can help anyone else write their permission slips, it does make a big difference. And of course, I feel lucky that I can do that.
Yeah.
And I know many, 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 perhaps most people just don't have any kind of money in reserve to do that. But I will say, it's not like I'm rich. I mean,
Yeah.
we prioritize
Yeah.
having the money. We'll take, one less trip a year,
Yeah.
or
You've made
a
sacrifices.
few less days, fewer days at the shore or whatever. We've made, I do feel like we've made some sacrifices in order for me to prioritize, so you want me to tell you a little bit about,
Tell me everything.
So, yeah. And I think
Tell us all your business.
I think this idea came from you, the idea of hiring a part-time personal assistant, which sounds super fancy, but it's anything but. I mean, yeah, right, exactly. I mean, we hired this guy who's he's a Dungeons and Dragons dude right out of college, and there's nothing fancy about him. But, when I got the idea, which I think was from you, of trying to find somebody who could help me just do some paperwork, run some errands, do things that I really didn't feel like I had time, or I wanted to prioritize other things, being able to go to a work function that I really wanted to go to or something like that. I started asking around. I think no, I didn't post on Facebook. I started asking friends,
Yeah.
do you know of someone? And a friend, like within days, I found this guy.
Cool.
And he was looking for something. He works at a tennis shop. He's out of college. Eventually go to graduate school. But he's like, right now I'm just kind of like, hanging out, figuring out who I am,
Love.
playing Dungeons and Dragons. So I was like, okay, so are you down for working 2 or 3 hours a week for me to do, drudgery? But, we'll hang out, we'll have fun. And he was
Cute.
like, yeah, he was like, I really like working with people, and this will give me a chance to like, just, do something different. He was like looking for something kind of fun and different to do. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it'll be different. All right. Yeah, he's helped me from everything from paying the, parking tickets or contesting them, more likely, to, a couple times a month, he'll go pick up prescriptions,
Nice.
takes the dry cleaning, from things like, I feel like I'm always getting letters from, business letters of some sort,
Yes.
like from my, my retirement company or somebody who wants something from, please fill out this form, or you did this wrong. Or, like I haven't had my own business in Philadelphia for like 4 years,
Mhm.
but I still get letters from the city of Philadelphia. You haven't filled out your tax forms for the city. And it's like,
Leave me
I
alone.
don't have it. So he takes care of that. He's
Yes.
finally like resolved that for me because he can like afford to be on the phone for an hour.
Yes.
He gets paid for it
Yeah.
in order to solve these problems that I'm like, if I'm on the phone for an hour, I'm a mess.
Yep.
Right? Total mess.
Yep.
So it's taken a lot of stress off me. I just love, I have this list on my phone that I make throughout the week.
Okay, I was wondering how you did this.
Yeah. And I then like on Thursday mornings, he comes in and I get up a little early in order to be there for him. He comes into the house. We meet in my dining room and we go through the list
Nice.
and we talk about, okay. And he does stuff during the week, like when we're not together as
Oh.
well. So he'll tell me what he's accomplished from my list.
Ah.
We'll go through it. And I love checking those things off
Ah.
my list.
And you didn't even have to do them.
And I didn't have to do them.
Yes. Has it been hard for you to figure out what to tell him to do? Was
Ye-
that difficult at first? Because I feel
Yeah.
like that is the pushback that I get sometimes when I suggest that someone hire an assistant. They say, I don't even know what I would have them do.
Well, it's become more clear over time.
Sure.
So there has been a learning curve for both of us.
Mhm.
Right? So it's gotten easier to figure out what things he's good at or what things I
Okay.
really have to take care of myself. Like if there's a ton of like follow-up questions and things like that, it's sometimes just easier for me to take care of it
Yeah.
myself. But yeah, I mean, it's been a process
Sure.
of trying to figure out how to maximize his capacity to help me
Sure.
out. But it's worked. And there are things like he has my credit card numbers.
Yes.
He has my password for my email. So I didn't give those things to him at first.
Of course.
Right? We built some trust
Yeah.
over, a month or two before I started
Smart.
giving him, the keys to the kingdom or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's still things that I think I wouldn't have him do. I can't really think of an example at the moment,
Mm.
but I'm not going to have him call my doctor's office and like talk to my doctor or something.
Sure. Sure.
I mean, that's
Sure.
just stuff I have to do.
Yep.
But he can cancel an appointment that I know I can't get to and reschedule it.
Yeah.
Or like, order prescriptions
Mm-hmm.
or,
Mm-hmm.
he makes like our vet appointments and things like that. And, stuff that just drive me crazy.
Hang over your head, take up brain space, feel like I got to do it. I got to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Just like always there nagging at you. And now you put it on a list and this Dungeons and Dragons gentleman takes care of it.
He takes care of it.
I am obsessed.
Yeah, it's really great. And then the other thing is that we do have someone, we're privileged enough to have someone who comes in and cleans the house.
Yeah.
And she would come every other week for years.
Mhm.
And then, I was thinking, I was listening to you, and I was like, are there other things that we could have her do? Like laundry, for instance, which I also hate doing, and I especially hate folding laundry.
Mhm.
The classic, like, we would have clean clothes in
Piles.
piles
Yep.
around the, it's just like, crazy. And so I asked her if we had you come in every week, would you be willing to do my laundry and fold it? And she was like, of course.
Oh my gosh. God
And she
bless
does the
her.
most amazing job. Like things are so nicely folded.
Way better than you.
Yeah, I don't think my t-shirts have ever been folded ever until they met her. And now they're perfectly folded. Yeah.
Does she do your partner's laundry too?
She does it sometimes. And she does like the joint library.
Library?
This is a strange part of dementia.
This is like
of
an
old age.
ADHD.
Yeah. Is it ADHD or is
I
it
think
dementia?
so. Oh, nah.
Do you do that? Do you substitute words?
Yes,
for
and my
words?
husband does not think it's cute. Like
It's funny,
he
'cause-
gets so annoyed. He's
Is-
like,
is-
what are you saying? And then I get mad at him because I'm like, obviously I meant laundry,
Right.
right?
Right.
But he takes it so literally. So he's then like thinking about libraries. And I'm like, why can't you find this cute?
I
And
know,
he doesn't.
right? Exactly.
He doesn't at all.
Yeah, I'm glad you don't feel like it's early onset. Or
No,
something.
you do not have dementia. This is ADHD.
My favorite one of those is I asked my husband once, do we have a long attention span? And I meant to ask, do we have a long extension cord? And yeah, is that an ADHD thing?
I
Like,
think yes.
All right, I like it.
I mean, I don't have any I don't have any data or like
Yeah,
research to back this up.
whatever.
I have a lot of anecdotal evidence for
Well,
it though.
You'll know if I have full dementia in a year.
Yeah,
but it turned
okay.
out it was early.
We'll keep tabs on you.
Yeah. Anyway, she does the joint laundry,
Okay.
like napkins and dish towels and
sure,
things like that.
sure.
So and it's
So
great.
Good.
It's amazing, and it really helps her. She's like an immigrant from Poland, and
Yes.
she needed more work, and she was delighted to get it. And it is a little bit of a stretch for us to have someone come in every week, a
Yeah.
financial stretch.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you what joy it is for me to come home and have my laundry done and folded. And I come home from work exhausted almost every day. My job is super intense. And, and those kinds of things just like, they really they help me get through another day,
Wow.
right? Like I don't have to come home and look at dirty laundry or look at unfolded laundry and then feel even more tired.
Mhm.
It's not like I'm going to do it,
Right.
but I'll just feel doubly
Yeah.
tired
Yeah.
after,
The
looking around the
expectation,
house. Right.
a laundry pile is it like an expectation on you?
100%. And it's harder for us.
Yep.
Right? It's
Yes.
just harder for us.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so you've asked this question a few times over the years, like, what if this was easy or easier? And I really try to have that in my head.
Yeah.
Like, what if having a really, a nice house was easy, a clean house was easy? And this is a way to make it easier.
Yes. And then that in turn just makes existing easier.
Yes, it makes me better at my job, and it just makes me better at my life.
So can you talk about that a little bit? How does it make you better at your job when you have outsourced these other drudgery tasks? I love how you labeled it drudgery.
Yeah, it feels like drudgery.
Yeah, it's a perfect word. How has that made you better at your job? How's that made the potato collecting even better?
All right, well, okay, so let's mix the metaphors. We're gonna use spoons to collect
Okay.
potatoes.
Love.
Okay, right.
Let's bring in
right.
some spoon theory.
Let's bring in some spoons. I definitely have a very limited number of spoons
Yeah.
on any given day, and my job right now is very intense, and it takes up, I would say, 80% of my spoons. Right. So say I have 20% of my spoons left.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather use those to take a hike.
Yeah.
Or organize a birthday party for my husband.
Yeah.
Or call an old friend.
Mm-hmm.
Zoom
Connection.
with my college friends.
Yes. Yes. yes,
Organize a Zoom call. Or go up to New York and see. Last month I went up and saw a couple of my friends read their poems at a bookstore. They were so freaked out and surprised to see
Oh,
me.
that is so
That
fun.
takes spoons, right? And I'd rather
Yes.
use my spoons for things that actually bring my life meaning and purpose. I feel like I'm lucky enough to do that.
Yeah.
But if I don't have to use a spoon on my laundry or like on parking tickets or like, to remember to go pick up my prescription, then I'd rather use it for other things. And so,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it seems clear when I talk about it like that it's worth it. And, most of the time I feel like it is. I mean, I still have a little residual guilt
Sure.
about, like, who am I? Like, too
Right.
big for my britches, putting on notions,
Yeah.
like paying somebody to go pick up my dry cleaning. Who do I think I am?
Yeah.
But it's not about that. It's like, I feel like it's just reality for me. I don't think I'm better than anyone else. In fact, it's like understanding that I have limited capacity.
You summed it up so perfectly just in that phrase. Like, it's not about being better. It's about understanding who you really are and what you need and being willing then to give yourself what you need.
Right.
I think that's such a key because so often we withhold from ourselves because we think if I could just focus better, if I could just work harder, if I just wasn't so lazy, if I just managed my time better,
Right.
then I wouldn't have to pay someone to do it. So I shouldn't pay someone to do it.
Right.
And my heart breaks for anyone who's sitting with that perspective because there's still a measure of self-acceptance that needs to be embraced. There's still a measure of like understanding and compassion that still needs to be like woven in to your personhood because I think that's what is required in order to really outsource is understanding yourself, knowing your limitations, but not judging yourself for them. Being like, okay, here are my limitations. How can I support myself? What do I need? And of course, not everyone is going to be able to just like today go hire someone to do their laundry. But literally in my community, there is a laundry service that is $5 a load. $5 a load. So, I mean, most people are listening to this on their iPhones, right? Like
Right.
most people can afford $5 for a laundry. So like she comes and picks it up
Wow.
and then drops it back off to you for $5.
Wow.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like there are services like that out there, but we don't even allow ourselves to go look for them until we have that self-compassion that says, I'm not a loser. I'm not lazy. I don't just need to work harder. I need to figure out how to support myself.
Right. I hadn't thought of it that way. I mean, I've just thought of it as sort of a practical matter, but never thought of it as an act of compassion,
100%.
self-compassion.
100%.
But yeah, it has been. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I know that I'm lucky to be able to afford
Sure.
those things, but as you say, it's not all of it has to be expensive. I pay the guy who helps us every week just for a few hours, $25 an hour. So it adds up to be, a couple $100s a month. And I know a lot of people don't have that extra, but it just means that we have to move money from, we have
Sure.
to prioritize, and I
Yeah.
prioritize it.
Yeah.
I'm prioritizing the spoons that matter. Yeah.
That was a word. We're going to
Is it?
stitch that on a pillow.
Yeah. Prioritize the spoons that matter.
That's so good.
Let's do it.
That is,
If only we weren't ADHD and we could actually like crochet or embroider or something.
there's no way.
High five.
You could commission someone,
We're
one of your
commission
artists.
someone.
We'll commission someone to do that because.
No way. No way do I have the patience for that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, what do you feel like is your next step for outsourcing? Do you have a next step? So, right now you have a cleaning service, a laundry service,
Yeah.
same person.
Right.
We have the drudgery tasks. Is there anything else that you're kind of like, ooh, someday I want to have someone do this?
Wow. That's wow.
'Cause I kind of see more of it in your future.
Do you?
Like maybe
Okay.
this is retirement. Like maybe
Right.
that's what retirement is. It's like I don't do anything I don't want to do.
Right. That is a very good goal for a
Because
time.
I like that. I would do that kind of retirement.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I'd like to be able to pay someone to exercise for me.
Oh my God. Go take this yoga class for me.
Right. Exactly. And, I need to work on my
But
upper body. Could you please go to the
would you
gym for
ever
me?
hire, like, do you think it would be supportive to hire a trainer to
Yeah.
come to your house?
Yes, exactly. I think that that's right. Making it easier for me to exercise would
Yeah.
definitely be something I could imagine
hmm
hiring someone to do. Yes, absolutely.
What would that look like? Like in a perfect world, like how would you, um, like, would they come to your house? Would it be a couple
Yeah, they
times a
would come to my
week?
house and they would,
Bring you
and
an iced coffee.
right, they bring me an iced protein shake.
There it is.
Right. Yeah, I think the things that still really stress me out are like eating healthily,
Yes.
right? And exercising, like finding time and cognitive capacity to
Yeah.
think about those things,
Yep.
right? So I would say being able to pay someone to like be a nutritionist for me, right?
Yes.
I mean, ideally in a total fantasy world, they would, make me super healthy food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, right?
Dude, I'm
If I was
in.
rich,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Like meal
A
prep and just kind of
personal
like
healthy
have it in
chef.
there.
Yeah,
Love that.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I definitely I think I would like to like pay a nutritionist to really help me create a meal plan every week and things like that.
Mm.
These are fantasies, right?
Sure.
Or somebody to like really guide me through an exercise regimen that, would, really help me feel completely healthy. I do go
Yes.
to the gym and I do actually have a trainer at the gym, but you still have to like get yourself there and it
So
can
hard.
only, yeah. So, but I think those are things that still really weigh on me,
Mm.
especially as I age.
Mhm.
It's just like now or never. Like
Mm.
I need to eat healthily
Now.
now. I
Yeah.
need to start exercising more now. So
Mm.
I am being better at it, but it takes a lot of spoons for me to figure out
Yes.
how to eat healthily.
Yeah. And they're not always available to you. So I'm guessing that it's a little bit inconsistent with the eating based on whether or not you
Completely.
have the spoons to like give to
Totally.
it. Yeah.
And when my spoons are dried up, I'll like get a cheesesteak.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Not good. And I have my good days and my bad days. I have cheesesteak days and I have, like poke bowl days.
Yes. I think that is one of the things for me as well. I've thought about it so much. Like, do I want to prioritize having someone come to the house and exercise with me?
Yeah.
And just because like I do like to go to classes.
Yeah.
But they're always at weird times that are just like not fit with my schedule. And I don't do it on my own. I hike on my own, but I need to like lift weights and
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
It's really hard to do
promise
without.
you I
Yeah.
won't do that
No,
on my
I get
own.
it. I get it. Yeah. So I think, I mean, in the same way that like having my laundry folded is taking care of myself, I think some of those other ways in which I really do want to take care of myself more
Yeah.
more effectively.
Wow.
I also need a grammar tutor, apparently. Would be, like, someone to help me with my food, somebody to help me with, just like, as I age, like
Mhm.
healthy aging.
I love that. I see it in your future.
I hope you're right.
I think it's probably going to happen soon. I love that. This has been I just smacked my mic, which I only do when I'm feeling very passionate. This has been so good.
It's been fun.
You're smacking your mic too. I love it. That's how we know.
It's been very fun.
That's how we know that it was
Yeah.
good. I just so appreciate your perspective. I'm curious. I imagine that people are listening with the thought of like, well, that's great for him,
Yeah.
but I just need to get my shit together. And if I would just work harder, then I could get these things done. Or I shouldn't pay someone to do it because I could do it myself. I'm just wondering, like, do you have any encouragement for a listener who's maybe like on the fence or considering making the move to hire someone to help with the drudgery?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, when we acknowledge that we have ADHD and we start thinking about coping skills and we start working on things like getting enough sleep, right? Or, giving ourselves more time to get places, right? The kind of self care, self compassion moves that we make, I mean, I think this is another kind of self-care and self-compassion that we can think about.
Mm.
Um, and you think about like spend $3 or $4 on a latte every day, that adds
Mhm.
up. I mean, you could
Mhm.
spend that amount of money hiring someone, having a laundry service
Yeah.
or hiring someone to do your taxes or your paperwork or something like that. I mean, it is, I mean, and once again, I will say, I know not everyone has discretionary money to do this, but a lot of middle class people spend money on things that they don't necessarily get tremendous value from. And,
Yes.
as I've gotten older, like figuring out what I want to spend my money on
Yeah.
has been an incredibly important journey, right? And as someone with ADHD as
Yeah.
well, right? So for me, it's about, prioritizing my self-compassion over something that feels like a treat every day, but in the end, I get a lot less bang for the buck or a
Yes.
lot less purpose from
Hmm.
it. So yeah, for us, you know, not being able to have expensive lattes every day or another trip to Europe or whatever, it's worth it for me to be able to stay just a little bit more sane on a daily/weekly basis.
That sanity is so important. And I don't think it can be overstated what a difference it makes when those drudgery tasks are not screaming at you.
Yeah.
Just like how much more sanity is available to you.
Yeah. I gained spoons just by coming home and looking at my folded laundry.
Yes. Wow.
I really feel like I do.
I like have this visual picture of like a video game where like the life expectancy is like raising because you're just like, ah,
Exactly.
I don't have to do
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Parking ticket paid. Psh, psh.
Yes.
Now I have energy to take a walk.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you for sharing your perspective.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, it was really great to have you.
And thank you, Kristen, for honestly like planting all these seeds in my head,
Mm,
and offering all these, these things that, in a lot of other places might be considered luxuries. And in
mm.
this context, feel like survival skills. So
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that.
thank you.
Listener, thank you so much for being here. We have enjoyed every second that we've gotten to spend with you. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to do the things. You know what to do. You're going to like, you're going to subscribe, you're going to rate, you're going to inject that dopamine right up into my veins. And I can't wait to talk to you next week. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.